What's up, guys? Welcome back to News Wave. So before we start, the Wednesday News Wave, I said we would actually donate the ad revenue from that and then some money on top that I would put in to try to even it out, make sure everything looked good there. And I went ahead and did that. Here's actually kind of the receipt. I guess they sent back the little home screen thing. And because of how many of you guys watched that News Wave, we were able to donate $500 straight to them. And that's really cool. We did it Etika's name and everything in memory. So thank you to everyone who watched the News Wave, sat through an ad or two. Very much so appreciate that. And it hopefully the 500 goes a long way to helping with mental illness and everything. Today, though, we have some fun stuff to go over. We're going to talk a bit about the annual gathering of the shareholders for Nintendo, where they talked about Switch revisions. They talked about their subscription service, all kinds of stuff there. But there are two I really wanted to hone in on right now that we'll talk about. And then I think GameStop might be testing a few things, and one of them actually stood out to me that I saw on Reddit that we'll talk a bit about here that might actually be a great idea and could help them heavily. As always, guys, enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed with the little bell icon on. Do this every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, and I have some fun stuff planned for a few weekends coming up with some tech-related stuff. So some fun stuff coming up, guys. Today, we're actually going to start a bit of a correction from yesterday after IGN had posted with an interview with the Astral chain developers talking about how it was supposed to be part of a trilogy. That appeared to actually be a mistranslation by IGN Netherlands, where apparently they had the translation all over the place, where they translated it from Japanese to English to Dutch, and apparently it was all over the place. It wasn't quite what they were saying. The actual director on Twitter corrected it, essentially saying, I have all kinds of cool ideas for Astral Chain, and it could lead to more entries in the series after this, but did not specifically say, hey guys, we got a trilogy planned. It has to sell though. Nothing like that. Just saying, hey, I still got ideas, and if it continues to work out, we want to do more games, we can do them. We also heard Nintendo talk a bit about the subscription service for the online, specifically about the different games that we have, which are mostly NES games right now. However, they actually said this in response to a question specifically about GameCube and N64 games, saying, at this place, we cannot tell new information about future classic hardware, among others, but we are thinking about providing extension of the online service, which is currently providing Famicom or NES software, as well as other methods of providing them. That was actually translated by Japanese Nintendo, and I'm not surprised to hear that they are looking into the back catalog. We all expect Super Nintendo games to be added, but I do question how many can be added when it comes to all of their stuff. Can they really offer us a service for $20 a year that includes the online, that has everything? Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, Game Boy Advance. I feel like they can't, and I think right now what they're sitting on is a gold mine, like an amazing subscription service that they could offer separate and then have a few games in rotation with their online service. And I think that's kind of what they're thinking about doing right now. I mean, $10 a month for a very large catalog of Nintendo's games from previous generations for a lot of people is probably worth it. That's, I think, the direction they're going in, but I could definitely see Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, all of that stuff in rotation, kind of like PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live games with Gold. They don't really stick around unless you download them and you have your subscription service up to date. We also got a release date for Disgaea 4 Complete Plus. This is actually by Nice America, as you're seeing here, this tweet they put out saying, we're excited to announce that Disgaea 4 Complete Plus will be released October 29th for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. In light of this news, we invite you to join our reverse cover sheet contest. So they're going to do some reverse cover art. Very cool. I like the Disgaea series. I played a lot of, I think it was Disgaea 3 on my Vita, and of course Disgaea 5 on the Switch, which is a good time. Here's the thing about Disgaea. People always get concerned because it's a number series, thinking they have to play like the first one or the second one before they play the fourth one. Technically, you don't have to. You can play any of them in any order. They're self-contained stories, but you do see different characters at times pop up in the same game. So I guess if you follow them in their order released, you'll have a bit more of an inside knowledge as to what's going on with different characters, for example. But if you want to try a Disgaea game and this one looks interesting to you, you can actually jump in and have a good time. You may be more I guess familiar with the mechanics if you played the previous ones, but hey, you can't really go wrong with Disgaea, and Disgaea 4 was actually pretty fun, so might be worth checking out. And guys, some of the quick news of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff we're going to talk about right away. The Switch Mini, which is something that we keep talking about because it's something that the Wall Street Journal, Eurogamer, all these other places, right, have reported on, have pointed out. We've heard Bloomberg, several places seem to have the inside lead on these revisions. And it doesn't really seem like much of a secret anymore, but if there's one thing Nintendo's good at, it's pretending like it still is a secret. In fact, it was obviously going to ask, I was pretty much absolutely positive it was going to be asked at their gathering of the shareholders. It was their 79th one. And yeah, it was asked. This is actually what they said in response to, hey, those Switch revision rumors, are we getting some? Because, you know, I'm a big investor and I'd like you guys to do more hardware. This is actually what they said. We acknowledge that there have been reports about this. Answering to rumors and speculations would end up stealing surprises from our customers and also be unprofitable to all of our shareholders. So we have no answer to that. As a general theory, we are always performing development of new hardware. And yeah, this is a very easy thing to look at and say, yeah, they're doing it, but they're not ready to announce it. The reason they're saying it's not profitable to their investors at this time is, hey guys, if we announce this thing 4 or 5 months in advance, people might just not want to buy a Switch. They might just hold off. That's kind of what they're doing here. They don't want to say that it's happening until like a month before it happens. They did this with the DS Lite. They denied to Eurogamer that one was coming, and then 2 days later they announced it, and that it was going to come out about 30 days after the announcement. I believe they announced it at the end of January, then right at the beginning of March, they released the thing. So yeah, there was a February basically in the way, which, you know, 28 days or so, 29, I guess, in a leap year and everything. But they want to get closer, which tells me it's not coming out in July. I mean, it doesn't seem to be the way it is. At this point, speculation and everything, most people are expecting that they want to get the Mario Maker 2 release out of the way, get that out there, and then possibly a week or two after that, they could announce it, and then it could come out in August. I think the latest they want to wait is probably September, because keep in mind, they have a lot of stuff coming out, and they want these things to be on store shelves for Pokemon. I'm specifically talking about the Switch Mini. I'm still unsure about the Switch Pro or the Switch revision with that. That one's still up for debate, I think, but a Switch Mini seems obvious to everyone. You know, a $200 Switch, it's like a little handheld unit. Make it cheaper, it's going to sell better, especially when Pokemon comes out. So that one seems pretty straightforward. They don't want to talk about it here. They can't talk about it here. And they didn't outright deny it. They just said, hey guys, we're always working on hardware, you know, can't say no. I mean, they did this with E3. Do you remember they said no new hardware at E3? They were very straightforward about it. But here, they're not saying that. They're just saying, we're always working on hardware and we can't announce it. It would spoil the surprise for you guys. Well, what surprise? What are you talking about? What surprise? A Switch Mini? Is that a surprise? Well, there you go. So that's kind of the way I'd read into that. I think they're going to announce it, and then in that same fiscal quarter, they will then release it all at once. So that doesn't show any decline in sales. I think that's the way they want to go about it. So, hey, July, August, you'll probably see something at least about a Switch Mini. The other Switch, though, again, the Dub Switch Pro is the one I'm not sure about, but, I mean, they're both rumored, right? So we'll see. Next up, let's talk about one of the coolest ROM hacks I've probably seen in a long time. So Banjo Kazooie is one of my favorite N64 games. Might even be one of your favorite. I mean, if you grew up with the 64, you were probably playing Banjo Kazooie, Mario 64, GoldenEye, F-Zero, Ocarina of Time, Majora. The list goes on. It has a very, very good first-party lineup. I think most people will tell you that. But the really cool thing about the N64 is people continue to do ROM hacks with this thing and check this thing out. You're not seeing things. That's Banjo Kazooie in Zelda The Wind Waker. Yeah, I can't believe it either. This popped up yesterday. I thought it was the most amazing looking thing. There's a full written article. There's full video of it, and it actually works on real hardware. This is called Banjo Kazooie the Bear Waker mod. And what it does is it takes Outset Island from Wind Waker and creates an entire Banjo Kazooie experience around it. You're collecting the notes, you're getting jiggies, you're doing all kinds of cool stuff there. And apparently there's even a Mumbo transformation in there. They haven't really revealed that one yet. I'm curious what they're going to have you transform into, but apparently you unlock different parts of the island, and it's much larger than you'd expect it to be, and they just want to build off of this island rather than go all throughout the sea and everything. I think that makes more sense. Focus on one area, build around it. You know, you're going in caves and stuff, and you apparently unlock different parts as you go, and yes, it works on real hardware, although frame rate apparently is kind of touchy with that. but it's kind of neat to see this. They're looking, I believe, to release it in July at this point, so not too far away, and it's a really neat idea. I like these little mashups. It's cool, and I mean, it's kind of neat to see the Wind Waker kind of Outset Island kind of reimagined on a Nintendo 64 system, so cool stuff there. I'm actually check this mod out, get like a nice EverDrive and pop that into the 64, see how it looks through the Ultra HDMI, that'd be cool, and play a little bit of it and see how they did with it. Next up, let's talk a bit about GameStop, because GameStop's had some trouble, right? They've done some things at this point to attempt to rebuild, cutting the dividend with investors, which hurt them pretty badly short term, but I think it's gonna help long term because they're freeing up capital essentially to use, and we'll see how they use that capital and what they could do, but here's an interesting thing that I didn't really know about because none of my GameStops in my area do it, and I really want them to, by the way, because I think this is a massive thing that can really help GameStop if they're willing to implement these changes like store-wide, completely, across the board, and that's selling retro games in their stores. There was actually a picture, as you're seeing here, that was posted up on Reddit, and then it was reposted to the SpawnWave subreddit, which you can go check that out yourself. Interesting subreddit there, I'll say that, but there's an image here of the Nintendo 64 games being sold in store at GameStop. Some of the pricing is a little weird. Mario Party 2 shouldn't be $65. That should be about $40. Ocarina of Time isn't terrible at $30, but they could probably make that $25. Rayman looks good. Rayman's fine, I think, at $12. Star Fox isn't bad at $20. But the interesting thing here is it's in store. It's behind the little glass they have with the key and all of that. But if GameStop would start doing more retro stuff in stores rather than have the people behind the counter, the associates, ship them off to GameStop warehouses, I think it would be much more interesting to go by GameStop. Not only because there are retro games there, but because at that point you don't necessarily know what you're going to find. And to be honest, might make me go to multiple GameStops or different GameStops or try different ones because they could have that GameCube game that I want, that I'm currently trying to work on a GameCube collection here, and maybe I'm looking for, what's the one I was just looking for Prince of Persia Sands of Time, okay? And what if I'm looking for that? Okay, this GameStop has a selection of GameCube games, but it's not there complete. Let me go check the other one. Then all of a sudden you have me not only in your store, but you have me in multiple stores. Like, why would I go to a GameStop now outside of the one that's near me if I'm just buying things like Mario Maker 2 today, for example, because it's going to be at all the GameStops, right? That's an interesting concept to have, and I wish GameStop would do that rather than all the statues and the collectibles and the backpacks and the shirts. Get into the retro scene. Have them keep it there, refurbish the little things, clean them up, test them, and put them out, because you'll get more people like me coming by and actually buying things from you rather than either going online. And if I can examine it in store, I'm much more willing to make like a 5 or 10 minute drive so I can actually see it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk a little bit about Ninokuni, which is a game that I really liked the first one. Second one was okay, but they kind of changed everything up from the first one. I really liked the way the first one played. It felt like a very traditional, straightforward RPG. Visuals were great on the PlayStation 3. Absolutely loved it. And of course, it's coming out now on other platforms later on this year. You might want to check that one out if you've never played it, because it's pretty cool. And it looks like Level 5 is going to be working to make this a bigger IP as they go forward. They have a movie coming out in Japan August 29th. And now it sounds like there is another game that's in development that will actually release sometime after the movie. That's all they said, but there is another Ninokuni game coming, which is exciting. We know, of course, about the remaster or the re-release, if you want to say that, for the Switch version, remaster on PlayStation 4 and everything, but the fact that they're getting that done, so the original is going to different platforms there, and then they have another one coming out, Ninokuni 3, maybe it's a spin-off. I do like that they are doubling down on this series rather than just forgetting about it. The second one didn't do as well as I think they wanted it to. It didn't get the best review scores or anything, but the first one was like magical. I really liked the first one. So if they can go back to that style and release another game similar to that one, I'm much more on board. I'm going to pick up the remaster later on this year, play it again because I did like it that much. But I do like that they are working a bit more on this series, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on, because if they're going to announce it or even release it after the movie, I guess that means we can look forward to them maybe announcing it like September or October, maybe for an earlier like 2020 release, like a February or a March. Should be kind of cool to see that, so we'll see what they have. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day. This one, as you're seeing here, is from Ace Cab, saying, "Man, I remember we even had to buy an RF converter back in the day or plug it in the VCR first to get the N64 wire to the TV. And now we need it to work with HDMI. The irony of it all." Yeah, this this is actually really funny because when I first got a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, we actually didn't have any TVs that had the yellow, red, and white on it at all. We didn't even have a VCR that took that input. See, before, for some people who are a bit younger, and maybe you don't remember tube TVs, because I'm noticing some of my nephews don't even know what a tube TV is, we didn't always have yellow, red, and white cables on the back. They're now taking them out and replacing the HDMI, but at the time we would use a VCR as a pass-through to the coaxial on the back. That's how it worked. And it sounds ancient and Stone Age now, and it's because it kind of was, I guess. But at the time I got an N64 for Christmas. So picture this, you're a kid, Nintendo 64 for Christmas, you get Pokemon Snap, because you gotta have Pokemon Snap, obviously. So I had that, Mario 64, Lego Racers, interesting one to get, but hey, I had it. And then I have my 64 and I realize I can't connect to the TV on Christmas Day. So there I am Christmas morning sitting there just looking at the stuff. I remember reading the manuals actually for some of those games because I couldn't play them. The next day I went to, I think, Radio Shack. I got the RF adapter for the back so I could plug it into our TV and finally play Pokemon Snap in glorious SD, whatever. It was fuzzy, but hey, it was awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's GameStop and their retro stuff. Do you think it makes more sense because they're looking to figure out how they can make this all work? Do you think it makes sense for them to do things like bring in retro games and then they can still get new accessories, right? You can get new N64 controllers, you get the Retrons, you get all kinds of cool stuff in there. Do you think it makes more sense to expand in that area, take the trade-ins for the retro games, and then kind of build out little retro sections in their store? Or do you think they should stick with new games, statues, collectibles, and all of that? Let me know, guys, down below. Also, let me know if your GameStop has these retro games. Very curious. And a little about the Switch revisions. Now they're commenting on it and they're not denying it. So when's this thing getting announced? Let me know, guys. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. Have some fun, play some games, and I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.